we didn't have a big family, and back in the early, when we were children, it would be the 1950s, and there weren't that many Filipino families around compared to now, of course. So when we went to high school at Morris High School, which is now predominantly Filipino, there was only like 5 of us, and so there weren't that many. So a lot of us grew up not having that sense of identity, and maybe in a way, a lot of us that are here, like I don't speak the language, I don't understand the language, and that was part of what our parents kind of wanted us not to know, assuming that we would do better in school, kind of a thing. So a lot of us are kind of Filipino at heart, but not what I say culturally, because when you don't know the language, you really don't know the culture, from my perspective.
Well, both dads, well, the group was my second dad, very strict. He's Ilocano, and he was very strict, very traditional. And we owe a lot to him, even though we couldn't do a lot of stuff because he was very, very careful with his money. So, we didn't do a lot of stuff like with friends. But after we graduated, he saved enough money for us. And he saved over $3,000 for each of us back in '68. Now, $3,000 back in '68, that's a lot of money. But he gave up a lot of stuff, a lot of the real stuff for us so he could, get money for school. And then we pushed education. And that's the thing, pushed education for us and do well.
I remember that. I remember the Fava Hall. We used to have Filipino events at the Filipino American Veterans Association Hall. My father was a veteran, and a lot of the community, the early community, were veterans. Those that fought in World War II, and the established community back then was in Southeast San Diego. And then as people were able to attain more socioeconomic status, then they moved out. But Southeast San Diego was the initial part of where Filipinos lived. Then they branched out to Paradise Hills, National City, Chula Vista down south. And then the migration happened up here to Mira Mesa. And the nickname for Mira Mesa is called Manila Mesa. And then we also have Penasquitos, and the nickname for Penasquitos is Pinoy Quiros. So we have a large Filipino American population here in San Diego. We're the largest Asian American ethnic group here.
Well, Filipino dating. Well, like I said, when we were young, there wasn't a choice there was a large choice of Filipinos to pick from. Well, I think the Filipino community, like all communities, the message was date anyone, marry your own kind. And then we are rather color conscious as a ethnic group, and so the lighter the better on the color spectrum. So if you're more brown than light brown, that could make a difference on how you received.
In terms of dating, a lot of the women in my okay. There wasn't a whole lot of Filipino women, okay, and the women we knew, they were kind of hooked up or they want to get married. And so for me, I dated a lot of non-Filipinos, okay, because I've been kind of different. I wasn't in the cliques, like one of my Filipino cliques. I was kind of different, a little more independent-minded. So again, I did non-Filipino women. Then when I got in college, I started working more with organizations and meeting other families, certainly other Pinoys. And again, very conservative, and because again, parents instilled that.
So I grew up in a pretty much African American neighborhood, and so for me, and my parents were really strict in terms of dating. So one of the things I was able to do was I was able to go live with my sister when I was in high school. Actually, I went to the Catholic school for 8 years, and then I went to Granger, and then I went to Sweetwater High School. And my oldest sister by that time had got married. And my other sister, who was next to me, she got in trouble a lot.
My 2 brothers joined the military because our father didn't want us to join, so one of them joined, one got drafted, and then my other brother joined the Air Force. I actually flunked the physical, so I luckily didn't have to go in. But if I would have gone in, my brother was in Vietnam, and you couldn't send 2 siblings to Vietnam at the same time. So theoretically, I could have gone to, if I would have went in, I probably went to another area because he was already over there. But there was a strong push for going into military. But obviously, neither one went into the Navy, so I think all of us were like anti-Navy because our parents were in the Navy.
When I mentioned my parents were strict, there was of the Filipino girls, making sure they don't get pregnant. I think that was a lot of the emphasis growing up, and I think the Filipino girls had more pressure put on them, and even today.
Before college, I was ashamed of being Filipino. Everything about being Filipino was negative. You know, we had martial law, you know, a lot of crime and poverty. And I saw that they had, and again, they had an accent, which I was kind of ashamed of, because I didn't know my history and culture. There was nothing we were taught about our history and culture as we were growing up. We just saw maybe Filipino dancing foods, but not the struggles of the people and the sacrifice of people in their history. So once we started going to college, we started to learn that and appreciate more. The more you know, the more you get to appreciate things. And again, history. Again, to know self. You know history, you know self.
I think the sense of ethnic identity development on what it meant to be Filipino American, in terms of the synthesis of what was going on in the Philippines at that time and what was going on for the younger Filipino American generation, the second generation. So both Sal and Felix, they were my mentors in many respects because they were older than me. And what they did when I was in high school, they came back and reached out to the younger Filipino American, second generation, saying, this is what it means to be Filipino American. We have a rich history in terms of contributions to the United States, but also learning more about the Philippines, learning more about the revolution, about Andres Bonifacio, Jose Rizal, and Aguinaldo, learning more about those components.